SLT Mobitel Fiber, the fiber of the nation. SLT Mobitel Fiber, the fiber of the nation.
රින් වෙළඳපොලේ අඩුම මිලකට රුපියල් 180යි.
Tonight, taxing the already taxed. The proposed 25% one-off surcharge on high-income companies divides opinion.
There's a growing argument since the proposal has been announced as to why only tax-paying companies should be paying this 25%.
But what we want. It's all smiles for the apparel sector following the tabling of Budget Proposal 2022.
We appreciate the measures on backward integration that have been taken, the need to grow fabric parks, the need for import substitution.
Back and forth, the fertilizer saga continues as the Chinese ambassador dispels the notion of a diplomatic spat.
Some Sri Lanka friends is trying to complicate it, even politicize it.
Unrelenting. No respite from the heavy deluge over the coming days.
Prevailing showery conditions is likely to continue next 2 days. After that, some sort of reduction can be expected.
All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Sunday, the 14th November 2021.
නැවුම් කුළුබඩු 12ක එකතුවකින් no biryani mix. Restaurant රසට බිරියානියක් දැන් ගෙදරදීම.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening, welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammik Eknaik. Now, the government says that cities with religious sites frequented by masses of devotees are showing an increase in COVID-19 spread. State Minister of Production, Supply and Regulation of Pharmaceuticals, Professor Chandna Jayasumana, notes that more new cases are detected from the likes of Anuradhapura in particular. The daily caseload has been steadily rising over the last weeks, and the health authorities put it down to increased social mixing.
After months of restrictions which included a ban on interprovincial travel, people are now enjoying the restored freedom of travel to the maximum. Tourist destinations are more or less full of visitors, and ordinary streets and markets are also bustling. All of this, however, has led to one critical fact: the rise in daily infections. Since the 5th of this month, the daily caseload was between 600 and 700. Then, 4 days later, on the 9th, the number hit 717. Though the figure came down to 693 the very next day, the number of daily cases reported since the 11th was above 700. Yesterday, it was 716.
මේ තත්ත්වය පූජා නගර සහ අනිකුත් ජනතාව එකතු වෙන ප්‍රදේශවල කැපී පෙනෙන විදියට ඉහළ යාමකුත් අපිට පෙනෙන්න තියෙනවා. ඉදිරියට එන සති කිහිපයක කාලය පරිස්සම් වෙන්න ඕන, විශේෂයෙන්ම ආගමික සිද්ධාස්ථානවලට වන්දනා නඩ පිටින් 100 200 එන එක සුදුසු නෑ කියලා පණිවිඩය තමයි අපිට දෙන්න තියෙන්නේ. අනුරාධපුර පූජා නගරය ගත්තොත් එහෙම පහුගිය සති දෙකක පමණ කාලයේ රෝගීන්ගේ කැපී පෙනෙන ඉහළ යාමක් දක්නට ලැබෙනවා. පාසල් පටන් අරගෙන ඒක සාර්ථක ලෙස ඉදිරියට කරගෙන යනවා. ඉතින් රෝගීන්ගේ ඉහළ යාම දිගටම සිදු වෙනවා නම් මේ පාසල් ළමයින්ගේ අධ්‍යාපනය පිළිබඳව අපි මේ අරන් තියෙන හොඳ යහ පියවරටත් බාධාවක් වෙන්න පුළුවන් ඉදිරියේදී. නොවැම්බර් 2 වෙනි සතියේ ඉඳන් දෙසැම්බර් අග වෙනකන් සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපේ රටේ වැසි කාල සීමාවක් බලපානවා. සෙම් සහිත රෝග කොහොමටත් වැඩි වෙන කාල සීමාවක්. එතකොට කොයි පැත්තෙන් බැලුවත් ඉදිරි සති 5-6ක කාලේ අපි පරිස්සම් වෙන්න ඕන පොදුවේ රටක් හැටියට. ඉතින් මේ කාලේදී කවුරු හරි කෙනෙක් උත්සාහ දරනවා නම් ජනතාව පාරට බස්සලා උද්ඝෝෂණය කරවලා මේ ජනතාව අමාරුවේ දාන්න. ඒක වීරත්වයට කාරණයක් නෙමෙයි.
In the meantime, the booster dose administration is still focused on frontline workers across the country. As per the statistics released by the Epidemiology Unit, a total of 101,319 persons have obtained a booster dose during the past 2 weeks. Though various countries in the world are going ahead with booster rollouts, the World Health Organization is yet to make a call on mandatory booster administration at this time.
We have the strategic advisory group of experts that makes the policy recommendations on vaccines. So they're tracking the studies around the world very closely, and we really need more high quality data coming from more countries because the more representative the data that we can base our guidance on, the better. Right now, there's high quality studies coming only from a couple of countries and only on a couple of vaccines. So I think there is a lot of scope for many countries to really start providing more data from the populations, because a huge numbers of people who've been vaccinated, and what we would like to see is data on breakthrough infections, mild, moderate, severe, leading to hospitalizations and leading to death.
As of last evening, a total of 15,874,038 persons had obtained at least a single dose of a COVID-19 vaccine. Out of that number, 13,648,423 people had been fully immunized with both doses.
Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka, Chi Zhenghong, says that some are attempting to politicize and complicate the fertilizer issue involving Chinese company Qingdao Seawind Biotech and the Ministry of Agriculture. Speaking today, he insisted that the matter is merely a commercial issue.
The disagreement between Chinese company Qingdao Seawind Biotech and Sri Lanka's Ministry of Agriculture has been well documented, with some international media reports being quick to call it a diplomatic issue. The issue stems over a sample of organic fertilizer the relevant Chinese company intends to export to the island, failing quality tests. Tests conducted by the National Plant Quarantine Service have revealed the presence of harmful bacteria in the fertilizer, upon which the Ministry of Agriculture rejected the consignment. The Chinese embassy in Colombo also blacklisted the People's Bank for not honoring a letter of credit issued to the Chinese company. However, the bank insisted that it blocked the payment due to a court order. The vessel Hippo Spirit, which is carrying the fertilizer consignment, is currently anchored in the seas of Berula after being refused entry to the Colombo port. Today, the Chinese ambassador insisted that there had been some efforts to politicize the matter. His comments came after he called on Chief Prelate of the Askiriya chapter, Most Venerable Varakagoda Sri Jnanaratana Thera.
I understand you have paid high attention to the fertilizer issues.
In my personal opinion, the organic fertilizer is a merely commercial dispute. But very regretted that some Sri Lanka friends is trying to complicate it, even politicize it.
It is only a pure commercial issue, a commercial dispute, and it's very sad to see that this issue was politicalized by some people, and there's many fake news on this issue. Yeah. And as far as I learned, the Chinese company and the Sri Lanka authorities, they have reached an agreement to go to a third-party test for the quality of the product.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, Sri Lanka's permanent representative to the United Nations in New York, Mohan Piris, calls on the International Criminal Court to ensure that judicial managerialism does not compromise defence activities. Speaking at the 31st plenary meeting of the 76th session of the UN General Assembly on Thursday, pertaining to the report of the International Criminal Court, Piris added that justice cannot be sacrificed at the altar of expediency, and also warned against certain state actors seeking to turn the ICC into their own political instrument.
Criminal justice cannot be shifted entirely from the domestic to the international level, and the primary responsibility for prosecution rests with the states and their judiciaries. Though through probably no fault of the court, but because donors and the court administrators take stock of the substantial costs of international trials, they begin to place demands on judges, prosecutors, and defense attorneys to do more with fewer resources. Efficiency, no doubt, is an important goal for international criminal courts for a multitude of reasons. Yet, we cannot sacrifice justice on the altar of expediency, as this can lead to the erosion of the protection of individual rights and the search for the truth. Tribunals under pressure from donors have introduced several managerial reforms, which has come some impact on the presentation of defences. We have observed that scholars and even some judges found the procedural reforms giving undue precedence to judicial economy over fairness. In recent times, judges at the International Court have begun introducing reforms aimed at improving the efficiency of the court, which no doubt is a good thing in principle, which mitigates undue delay. But a thought that worries Defence Counsel remains an unanswered question as to whether judicial managerialism has also circumscribed defence activities. We must guard ourselves to ensure judicial managerialism does not lead to restrictions on defence investigations.
Sri Lanka's permanent representative to the United Nations in New York, Mohan Piris, also brought the attention of the Assembly to the danger of some states attempting to exploit the International Criminal Court as a tool to push their own political agendas.
It has been said that the ICC must, however, guard itself from state leaders who ask the ICC to act against respondents in order to reinforce their own regime and authority, thereby seeking to turn the ICC into their political instruments. Any such overtures must be discouraged at the highest level, as to do otherwise would contribute to the creation of an unjust, illegal system, as these political actors want the court to focus on one side of the conflict.
Big 3.
Now then, the heavy rains are set to continue for a few more days before subsiding. Showers up to 75 millimetres are predicted and certain districts are under landslide warning. Meanwhile, the Colombo-Kandy main road continues to be closed at Lower Kadugannava.
The Kandy-Colombo main road was closed at the Lower Kadugannava area on Wednesday following earth slips and pre-landslide signs were observed. The road continues to be closed and officials of the National Building Research Organisation today inspected the area where the earth slips occurred in Lower Kadugannava. They are taking measures to ease the water pressure build in the displaced layer of soil, with further tests also being conducted in the area. Speaking to First at 9, officer in charge of emergency landslide risk at the NBRO, RMS Bandara said that investigation report pertaining to inspections will be handed over to the Kegol District Secretariat and the decision to whether reopen the road or not depends on the said report. Meanwhile, a section of the railway track near the Vijay Rajadhana railway station along the Mirigama-Colombo main line had sunk. The incident has also put the adjacent railway tracks in danger and the Department of Railway took action to repair the line. In the meantime, vehicular movements along the Puttalam-Kurunegala main road was disrupted today after a tree collapsed in the area of Dharmapala in Anamaduwa. Though the heavy rains have subsided to some degree, even the prevalent deluge is enough to prompt the authorities to extend landslide warnings in some districts. The districts of Kalutara, Kandy, Kegol, Kurunegala, Matale, Nuwara and Ratnapura are under caution. In Kothmale, pre-landslide signs have been observed in the area of Kottagampitiya. 20 families in the area were evacuated to safety.
Level 2 alert warning issued to Dehovita, Aranayaka, Rabukkana, Ruwanwella, Derana, Galigamuwa, Mavanella and Yatiyanthota Division Division Kegol District. Level 1 watch warning issued to Palindunuwara, Matugama, Dodangoda, Agalawat and Bulat Singla Division Division Kalutara District. Udapalata, Pasbaya Korle, Harispattuwa, Udunuwara, Doluwa, Ganga Ila Korle, Yatinuwara and Ganga Wata Korle Division Division Kandy District. Bulat Kohopitiya, Kegol and Warakapola Division Division Kegol District, Alauwa, Ridigama, Polgahawila, Narammala, Mawatagama and Mallopita Division Division Kurunegala District, Rattota and Okwila Division Division Matale District, Ambagamu Korle and Kothmale Division Division Nuwara District, Nivitigala, Kuruvita, Elapata, Keriyalla, Ratnapura, Kalabana, Ahliyagoda and Ayagama Division Division Ratnapura District.
In the meantime, the low pressure zone that has developed in the southeast Bay of Bengal is likely to intensify into a depression by Wednesday and move closer to the Andhra coast of India the next day. Until then, the Department of Meteorology expects the continuation of heavy showers.
Because of this system, southwesterly wind flow has enhanced over Sri Lanka. Actually, still we are in the intermonsoon season, but however, because of the low pressure systems developing over this Bay of Bengal during last few days as well as at present, so the wind flow, especially over lower levels of the atmosphere, is blowing from southwestward. The prevailing showery conditions in the western Sabaragamuwa, central, northwestern and northern province as well as in Galle and Matara district is likely to continue next 2 days, and some sort of slight enhancement also likely tomorrow. Fairly heavy falls about around 50 to 75 millimeter can be expected at some places in western Sabaragamuwa, central, northwestern provinces as well as in Galle and Matara district. The showery conditions we are experiencing right now is likely to prevail till Wednesday. After that, some sort of reduction can be expected.
මිලියන 18.8 නිවස ලක්ෂ 5ක් ගෙවා දැන්ම වෙන් කරවා ගන්න මල්බෙරි රෙසිඩන්ස්.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, a tax expert has raised concerns of the 25% one-off surcharge tax on companies and individuals with a taxable income of more than 2 billion rupees in the past financial year, which the government proposed in its budget proposal for the year 2022. The key question posed is, why should entities which already pay tax should be subjected to more of it? Meanwhile, there were also calls for more relief to the tourism sector, despite the Minister of Finance categorically saying that the sector doesn't need more relief. These views came during a webinar hosted by the Central Bank's Centre for Banking Studies yesterday.
Given the sustained disruptions faced by Sri Lanka's tourism sector in the past 3 years, the provisions of some degree of relief to the tourism sector via the budget proposal 2022 was expected. Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa categorically said yesterday that the tourism sector must not only try to seek refuge in the government during tough times, since all tourism-based tax revenue stays within the industry. But one corporate expert thinks otherwise.
One request that the industry had asked prior to the budget and was hoping for something, although there was no mention of that, is that when the debt moratoriums end for hotels, to have some kind of debt restructuring where there will be an extended period for repayment. I think that request had been made to the Treasury and the Central Bank. There wasn't any mention on that in the budget. As you know, the impact of the pandemic in the last 2 years has been unprecedented, in particular on the hotel sector. We've never had a situation, even at the height of the war, where hotels have been completely shut and had 0% occupancy for extended periods of time. Having said that, I think, partly because of the successful vaccination program, we are now seeing a gradual pickup in tourist arrivals, and the forward bookings are quite encouraging. We have 4 resorts in the Maldives, and in the Maldives, where the country opened up for tourism well before Sri Lanka, we have seen tourism now bouncing back to normal. It's a month of November, and then going forward, actually, it's looking even better than normal. So I think there is hope that even in Sri Lanka, we will see quite a rapid rebound in tourism.
In the meantime, one of the eye-catching proposals made during the budget speech is the 25% one-time tax surcharge on persons or companies with taxable income over 2 billion rupees for the financial year of 2020-2021. A tax expert says that the proposed move might lead to a disparity on the treatment of tax-paying entities and those which don't.
Now, the issue that can arise from this or that are clear is, of course, taxable income means people who pay corporate tax. So in that category, you have people who have paid tax at 14%, people who pay tax 18% and 24%, which means all of them will pay the 25% of their taxable income, irrespective of the concessional rate given to them in the respective areas. Also, there's a growing argument since the proposal has been announced as to why only tax-paying companies should be paying this 25%. They already contributed to the treasury in form of their own taxes. So why can't you tax also those who are not paying income? From a chamber's perspective, we also believe that everyone should pay some element of tax. So that's our principle. So on that basis, it is our view that this should have been better if we gave as a surcharge or income tax rather than as a tax on a certain sector of the economy, which is earning profits beyond 2 billion. The second issue that is not very clear is, are you going to give marginal relief? See, what happens is, whatever marginal relief is, if someone earns a profit of 1,999 million, he doesn't pay anything. But a person who earns 2,001 billion pays 25%. So unduly, so that is what is called marginal relief. So it's not fair by those who miss it by 100 million and those who are above that over 100 million, because they are liable to the tax at the entire 25% rate.
In the meantime, Budget Proposal 2022 has left the apparel sector purring. Speaking to First at 9, the past Vice Chairman and current Executive Committee member of the Joint Apparel Association Forum of Sri Lanka, Johan Lawrence, said the expectations such as import substitutions and fabric parks have been realised through the budget.
JAF welcomes the 2022 budget. We see it looking to develop the economy as an export-oriented economy, which is the need of the hour. We are appreciative of the apparel sector being identified as one of the sectors that is important for the growth of the economy. This sends a strong positive message to our customers and to the world outside. We appreciate the measures on backward integration that have been taken, the need to grow fabric parks, the need for import substitution. These are all part of what JAF has been lobbying for. We look forward to the new Finance Act. and in particular the simplification on the rules of conversion of foreign remittances from exports. We believe this simplification will help facilitate exports and help the economy to grow and help our sector to get to its goal of 8 billion by 2025. Finally, in terms of digitalization and transparency, we look forward to the implementation of the measures that have been indicated. We believe digitalization is a key process in terms of a smoother functioning of the way we trade. Overall, we're very happy and we look forward to the growth of the sector in the years to come.
The United States has disbursed $150 million in financing to support sustainable development of Sri Lankan community-based businesses, with special focus on those owned by women entrepreneurs. The US Embassy in Colombo says that it is the largest loan disbursement by the US Development Finance Corporation for Sri Lanka. It added that the disbursement is part of a $265 million commitment designed to support the local micro, small and medium enterprise sector, especially women-led enterprises in Sri Lanka. Through the partnership, the DFCC Bank will provide lending solutions in priority sectors and support Sri Lanka's commitment to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, particularly enhancing the country's efforts to promote women entrepreneurship. A portion of the DFC loan will be directed towards MSMEs owned or led by Sri Lankan women to tackle their limited access to finance. Market analysts expect negative sentiment at the Colombo Bourse in the week ahead, with some of the budget's revenue proposals also anticipated to affect big companies. The CSE All Share Price Index slipped 0.19% to close lower at 10,666 last Friday, while the S&P SL20 Index of more liquid stocks fell 0.11% to close at 3,621.25. Now here's Dimantha Matthew with the market forecast for the coming week.
The upcoming week we feel is likely to have a lot of negativity in the market because of the new revenue proposals arriving from the budget. So that is likely to hit the bigger companies in the market negatively, and with that we feel that there could be some selling pressure coming into the market in a bit of a big way. And in addition to that, retail participation is likely to be continuing to be onto the high side, but we feel that there is likely to be significantly more selling pressure in the market compared to the previous week. So we feel that more and more defensive counters is likely to be the shift of the investors, and the retail favorite counters are likely to lag behind in the coming week. So overall we feel that the outlook is likely to be negative, but turnover levels and activity may continue to be very healthy and high.
Now, after more than 2 weeks of intense negotiations, almost 200 nations have agreed to adopt the Glasgow Climate Compact, or Impact I should say. The leaders say that the agreement will keep international hopes of averting the worst impacts of global warming alive. There was a last-minute change to the language of the agreement upon India's insistence on the reduction in fossil fuels as well.
Negotiators yesterday closed a deal to settle rules for carbon markets at the UN Climate Summit in Scotland, potentially unlocking trillions of dollars for projects to help curb climate change. The final deal, adopted by nearly 200 countries, will implement Article 6 of the 2015 Paris Agreement, setting the rules for all, allowing countries to partially meet their climate targets by buying offset credits representing emission cuts by others. Companies as well as countries with vast forest covers had pushed for a robust deal on government-led carbon markets in the hopes of also legitimizing the fast-growing global voluntary offset markets. Critics worry that offsetting could go too far in allowing countries to continue emitting climate warning cases, making some wary of a hasty deal. The day, however, wasn't without drama. India, backed by China and other coal-dependent developing nations, raised objections to the part of the agreement, calling for a reduction in fossil fuels and asked for the wording to be rewritten. India, the language changed to phase down from phase out. After initial objections, opposing countries ultimately conceded.
Of course, I wish that we had managed to preserve the language on coal that was originally agreed. Nevertheless, we do have language on coal on phase down, and I don't think anyone at the start of this process would have necessarily expected that that would have been retained. I would say, however, that this is a fragile win, and we have kept 1.5 alive.
Not everyone is happy with the deal. wealthy countries failed to make good on an unmet $100 billion climate finance commitment to support developing countries from 2020, with the text calling only for the market to be delivered urgently. Bangladesh climate envoy called the COP26 outcome an absolute failure.
As far as I'm concerned, it is a failure, absolute failure. There may be other good things in it. I don't care.
For the people that you represent.
Exactly. It's a death sentence for the poorest people on the planet. And not only that, the polluters are saying, to hell with you. We don't care. We're not going to give you a penny.
So very disappointed.
Not disappointed. I'm angry, as you can see. Disappointed is too low a word.
Let's be clear. I'd rather not have that change. I was very happy with the language we had. It's like going from 24 karat gold to 18 karat gold. It's still gold. Probably even 6 months ago, China, India, South Africa, a host of other countries would never have agreed to this language. But since the IPCC report came out, and since everybody's now so convinced that we're in deep trouble, also these countries take historic steps.
In the eyes of Greenpeace, yesterday's global agreement is a meek, weak outcome that doesn't meet the moment.
On the whole, I think that it's a meek, weak outcome that doesn't meet the moment of the climate emergency. It keeps the 1.5 degree goal barely alive, and I don't think that the youth activists and the indigenous peoples are going to tolerate another COP like this. If governments were actually treating this as the emergency that it is, well, they should have rolled up their sleeves and figured out how to close the gap coming in here. That is realism. Climate change is real.
And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Of a white ball.